So you're aiming for that perfect 800 on the SAT reading and writing section. It's a huge goal. But when it comes to the writing part, how do you actually make it happen? Well, today, we are breaking down the exact system from someone who has consistently scored perfectly. We're not talking about vague tips here. This is a real, concrete plan to get you that top score.
Okay, let's just get this out of the way right up front. This is not easy. As our source material puts it, it's going to require near perfection. And trust me, that is not an exaggeration. But the key word there is near. It's a ridiculously high bar for sure, but it is one that's absolutely reachable if you have the right strategy. You might be wondering, come on, is a perfect score really that different from just a great one? And when it comes to the SAT writing section, oh yeah, the difference between great and perfect is massive. Let's dig into exactly why aiming for perfection is such a critical move. Aiming for that perfect 40 on the writing test isn't just about having something to brag about. In the crazy world of competitive college admissions, that perfect score can be the one thing that makes your application impossible to ignore. This table right here shows you just how brutal the scoring curve can be. I mean, look at this. This is from official practice tests. If you get a perfect raw score of 44, congrats, you get a 40. But if you miss just one single question, bam, you're immediately down to a 39. Miss 2, you could drop all the way to a 37. There is literally no room for error. And this is what that looks like in the real world. The difference between a 1460 and a 1560 might not seem like much, but to an admissions officer, it is a giant leap. A 1560 tells them you've cleared their highest bar. It can make up for weaknesses elsewhere in your application and basically proves you're ready to compete at an elite level. Bottom line, that perfect score gives you a huge advantage. So, let's talk about how to get it, starting with phase 1. The first step to getting a perfect score is to really understand what you're up against, and more importantly, where you stand right now. This isn't about just doing a million practice problems and hoping for the best. It's about taking a smart, diagnostic approach to find your specific weaknesses. Okay, so here's exactly what you're going to do. First, take a full writing section from an official practice test, under strict timed conditions. When that timer goes off, don't stop. Keep going, but use a different colored pen or something to mark any answers you change or finish after the time is up. This gives you 2 scores, your realistic score under pressure and your extra time score. The difference between those 2 scores tells you everything. Is your problem the content itself, or is it just the clock? Once you have a sense of your high-level weakness, you need to dig into the content, and the good news is the SAT doesn't test every obscure grammar rule in the English language. It tests a very specific, very predictable set of rules. You've got to master these 8 core categories, from punctuation to idioms, because the test is literally designed to trick you if you have any gaps in these areas. But, grammar is only half the battle. The other half of this test is all about rhetoric, which is basically the art of making a good argument. These questions have you acting like an editor. You're being tested on things like making smooth transitions, putting sentences in a logical order, and even reading data from charts and graphs. Mastering these is every bit as important as knowing your comma rules. All right, so you know the rules of the game. Now it's time to actually play. Phase 2 is all about a relentless cycle of practice, deep analysis of your mistakes, and targeted drills. This, right here, is where you're going to see your score really start to climb. I absolutely love this analogy from our source material. It perfectly captures the mindset you need to have. Your mistakes aren't just wrong answers. They are cockroaches. Every single one is a clue. Your job isn't just to squash it and move on. It's to figure out where it came from and make sure you seal up the cracks so it can never, ever come back. You have to be totally relentless. This right here, this is the single most important question you will ask yourself during your entire prep. Don't just circle the right answer and move on. No, you have to stop and do an autopsy on your mistake. What were you thinking? Why did that wrong answer look so tempting? And why did the right answer seem wrong? And it pretty much boils down to one of 3 things. Was it a content gap, where you just flat out didn't know the grammar rule? Was it an overlooked rule, where you knew the rule but the SAT disguised it in a tricky way? Or was it just a simple careless error because you were rushing? Categorizing every single mistake like this is how you start to see the patterns. And that's the whole key. Once you see the patterns in your mistakes, you attack your biggest weakness first. If you keep missing questions about modifiers, well, that's the biggest hole in your boat. So you stop everything and you drill that one skill over and over until the hole is plugged. This targeted approach is way, way more effective than just taking practice test after practice test. Okay, so at this point, you've mastered the content, you're analyzing your mistakes. Phase 3 is where we get into the expert level stuff. These are the tactics that are going to push a really good score, like a 750, all the way up to that perfect 800. This is what separates the great from the perfect. Okay, listen up, because this is a classic trap that gets so many people: the no change option. Statistically, it's only the right answer about a quarter of the time. So if you find yourself picking it a lot, that's a huge red flag. It probably means you're missing subtle errors. So from now on, I want you to treat no change with extreme suspicion. Always prove to yourself why the other 3 answers are 100% wrong before you even consider picking it.
Look, top scorers never, ever pick an answer just because it sounds right. That's a recipe for disaster. They can justify every single choice they make by naming the specific grammar rule being tested, or by explaining the precise logical reason a certain choice is better. You need to force yourself to do this. For every single question, ask yourself, what specific error is this answer fixing? It makes your whole process rock solid.
The goal here is to finish with time left on the clock. But you can't just sit there, you need a plan for that extra time, and here it is. Step 1, immediately go back to any questions you marked as being unsure about. Step 2, if you still have time, go back to question number 1 and recheck everything. Finally, in the last 2 minutes, do one last super fast check of your bubble sheet to make sure it matches your booklet. This system is your safety net.
So, there you have it. That's the system. Diagnose your weaknesses, practice with ruthless analysis, and then apply these expert-level tactics. But really, pulling it all together comes down to one fundamental belief about what the SAT actually is. And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to remember. Getting a perfect score isn't about being a language genius or having some kind of natural talent. The SAT is a standardized test. That means it is designed to reward a specific kind of preparation. Your final score is simply a reflection of how hard and, more importantly, how smartly you work. It is 100% within your control. So look, the roadmap is right here in front of you. The path to a perfect 800 is laid out. The only real question left is the one you see on the screen. Are you ready to stop just studying hard and finally start studying smarter?